Welcome to this week's Adventures with Peps. We are painting a Judge Dredd figure, Oola Blint, the Angel of Mercy. She is such a cool character in the comic. She actually killed more people than most serial killers in the comic. It's quite hilarious, and her husband Homer Blint, who I've painted in an earlier video, are just two very cool figures. So let's get into painting them. Now this is a very quick model to paint. So I primed it black. Her outfit is all black with a little bit of white and obviously skin tone. So I grabbed the white scars and my army brush, dry brush. That's a lot of brush. Army painter dry brush. And I'm giving it a heavy dry brush, and this is going to help me notice where obviously the edges are. And it's just going to help me actually see the model a bit better, because with it primed all black, it's very hard to know what I'm looking at. I have a plan in my head, which we're going to see in this video, and hopefully it's going to work and you'll enjoy the results at the end. Right, the dry brushing is done. That was a nice, quick and easy step. Just a little bit more on this area around here. It's very hard to get under the hat. These are, I'm a little bit scared of these early Warlord resins. They have a habit of breaking at the ankles. So I didn't want to go too crazy and too heavy. So with the dry brushing done, grabbing my little layer brush, and I'm going to use the white scar. I'm going to try and pick out her skin tone, the little needle injector that she is armed with, and a little bit of detailing on the bag. These are the main areas that are not going to have a super dark color on them. So I want to make sure they have a nice light brightness to them. This is going to help the speed paints later on. Otherwise, we're going to have a very dark model at the end of the day. There's not actually a lot of flesh on this model. Her face, her hands, a little bit of a chest, and then a slight sliver of a leg on the side. So I've got to be careful. I don't want to mess up any of the black and the dry brushing I have done already. So I'm just going to take my time, and we'll come back in a moment. Alright, I left the paint to dry, walked away, made a cup of tea. Now we are back. We're going to kick off with the first of the contrast paints. Now, I wanted to try and break up the black that is on this model, but I had to do it in a way that seemed realistic and would kind of keep everything dark. So I'm starting off with her bag, and I am using Leviathan Blue. I finally remembered what it's called. This is the blue I actually use on the judges, but I normally put it over a white base coat. This time it's going over a black, so it's going to stay dark. But as you can see with the dry brushed areas, it's going to give it a slight highlight that isn't going to stand out as harshly as that dry brush is. And it's going to also give the bag a slight bluish tint without being over the top. She's still going to look dark, still going to look almost black. But that blue is just going to help separate the bag from her and actually make me feel like I've painted something, as opposed to just primed it black and dry brushed. As you can see, I'm just cutting around. I'm leaving the clasp white because I have a plan for that later. It also needs to be dark if I'm basing it off her artwork. So ultimately this is a super dark model. There's not a lot to it. Now you can see the blue definitely stands out. I've decided to do her shoes as well. I feel like it's from 3 foot away, you're not going to notice it. She's going to look like a dark model. But when I'm photographing her or actually holding her to look at her, you're going to notice the difference. And that to me is rather important. It's the little details that maybe playing a game you're not going to notice, but when she's in your hand, you will see there's the slight difference. As you can see, I'm picking out the flowers on top. I've seen people paint them white. I don't think that fits. It also doesn't remind me of the artwork that I've seen. So I'm going with dark blue. And at the moment it stands out because I've not done the black. But it will all blend in quite nicely in a little bit. Up next comes the Reikland Flesh shade. I love this color over white. It sometimes worries me that it's not going to cover well. And I think a little bit on the leg, I probably will go back to cover up it a second time. There is some white that peeks through at the end of the paint job. But overall, I love the effect it gives. White scar is probably the whitest I've gone. Reason I've done that is I wanted her to look relatively pale. She is obviously very much into death. I want her to look pale. I want her to be the super goth that she is. And so I just wanted to keep it nice and bright. Normally I'd use like a pallid witch flesh and then use this over the top. But today we're just going startling white. As you can see, I've got the leg, face, hands, very quick step. But I will have to touch it up later. At this stage, I grabbed the Warlord Grey by the Army Painter. I'm doing the clasp on her black bag. It's going to show that it's metal, but not a bright metal. I'm also going to use it on her injector gun and her hair. In the comics, she has black hair, but I wanted to make it stand out from her black dress. So I went with the Warlord Grey. It's going to look nice and dark. Where the grey does come through is in those dry brushed highlights. And I don't mind that. It's going to give it, makes it look a little bit older than probably what she is in the comics. But I really don't mind it. I think it looks great on the end. There we go. Finish that up. We'll let that dry for a minute. And then we are pretty much in the home straight. I've got 2 colours left to go. This is ridiculously quick. And the second to last colour is going to be the Army Painter Grim Black. Now, I wanted to darken it down. The dry brush, though it looks great, made her look dusty, makes the dress look grey. Her dress is not grey. It's a nice, stunning black goth dress. So she needs to look like a goth. So we're going to go over it with the Grim Black. And where I've dry brushed, it's going to end up with some very nice highlights. Not over the top, not in your face that they're there, but definitely you will see them in the end. This is the largest part of the model. It's so easy. Load up the paintbrush, slap it on the dress, make sure you leave no streaks or pooling, and you're good to go. Now in the comics, she's great. I love the idea that she's going door to door, selling euthanasia to the masses, and her absolute fool of a husband, Homer Blint, is with her every step of the way up until I think they finally got captured actually by Judge Dredd. I'm a bit behind on the comics, but I remember when they first appeared, Homer Blint actually was a peeper for the Justice Department, and he was tracking a murderer in the block opposite, and he discovers it's his wife. Instead of turning her in, he actually ends up helping her, which is the classic 2000 AD tale. The box set that she comes in, you also get Homer, but he's in his backglider suit. So in the final pictures, you'll see him. I'll also have a link to the video where I paint him, and that will be in the top corner here somewhere. Recommend you go watch it. And yeah, we're pretty much there. We've got 1 colour left to do, and then we can call this model done. Now, this last colour you'd have seen in the video before this one, the Imperium magazine. I got my Tesseract Glow. It's a bright, luminous green colour, and it screams out to be on this model. She's armed with some toxic poison that she injects people with. And what says toxic more than this bright green ooze that would mutate turtles into ninjas? This stuff is just a wonderful colour. Goes on lovely over white scar. I highly recommend it. I love this paint. I don't know how I'm going to use it more, but I will find a way, trust me. That is it. I'm going to finish up now and show you some pictures and some music. As always, appreciate you stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll catch you next week for another video. Cheers for watching.